So at the moment we're all on an ether pad or primary pad document, and we pose some questions. What is poetry? We also pose the question, what do people write poetry about? And what's the other question?
What is it?
There we go. The other question is, how does it work? So there's lots of different ideas people are throwing in here. I'm wondering if some people could be a bit more specific. Okay, so I'm throwing in some suggestions there about, could you be really specific about how the poems work? We've only got a few minutes left. I'll just check the timer. So we've got about 4 minutes left. It's interesting. So I'm seeing we're talking about expressing feelings. Doesn't have to rhyme. I'm wondering what a stanza is. That might need to be explained for people. Okay. They can tell stories or feelings. Nice. Oh, hooray! Someone's used a technique. Someone's used the word rhymes. What other techniques are in place? How does it work? Let's have a look if that's been answered. So we've got different forms, like haiku and acrostic have been mentioned. Rhymes been mentioned. Metaphors, similes, oxymorons, etc. Stuff. Michelle. Thank you for that, Michelle. Stuff. I'm not quite aware of stuff being a literary technique. Say more. If you could say more for me, that would be really helpful. Sonnets. Ah, what's a sonnet? He wasn't the only one. There's lots of different poets who wrote sonnets, and you can write sonnets too. Hi there, Bill. Welcome. We're having an introductory, just having a bit of a check-in to see what you guys know about poetry. I sent you an email with a link to this primary pad so we can see what people's thoughts are. It's 2A, that's correct. So if you check your email, you'll see a link to this document. So this is really good. This tells me what each of you are thinking. Okay. So if I look through this, what I see you saying is that poems can be things that express feelings, ideas. They have some features, and Michelle's clarified that by saying things like puns, paradox, oxymoron. Michelle, would you explain what an oxymoron is?
An oxymoron is like where a thing is described as the opposite of itself, like a heavy feather. Pretty ugly.
Okay, I also see that some poems can be freeform, some poems can have structure. A sonnet's being described for me here by you, which is describing it as a poem of 14 lines. Hooray! Someone's spelt onomatopoeia correctly, which is wonderful. Good on you for correcting that. Oh, and there goes the bell telling us it's time to stop. So finish the thing you're entering. Political events, beliefs, feelings can be subjects for poems. Great. So clearly you've studied poems before, yes?
Yeah.
Who has never studied poetry whatsoever before?
Like directly study poetry, like sat down and okay, let's study poetry.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of know about it through.
Okay. So what I'll do with this document is I'm going to turn this into a probably either a Wordle or a Tagxedo and send it to you, so you can get a sense of what you think are the primary aspects of poetry, or I might just send it to you as a Word document. Can I ask you guys to leave your laptops, and can I get you to gather around over here, because we're going to do, and bring chairs because you'll be here for a little while. So I'm just having a look here. Humorous poetry, excellent. I'm so glad someone said humorous poetry. Optional rhyming, really impressed by that. Most people think poetry is about rhyming.
Usually poem has rhythm to it.
But
Usually?
it doesn't have a melody like a beat, just like a song.
Interesting. So poetry doesn't have to have melody. No, it's true. Some poems have been turned into songs,
Yeah.
and some songs can be read as poems, and we hope to do that a bit later too. Can I get everyone a little bit closer so you can be heard on the microphone? Excuse me, coughing. All right, so that's really helpful for me to know that you already have a very broad understanding of poetry. You've mentioned things like haiku and acrostic. You know what a stanza is. We've got some great techniques that you're familiar with. I'm sure you all know a simile from a metaphor.
Yes.
Is anyone not 100% sure what the difference is? Okay, so everyone's sure what that is. Brilliant. There are several structures of poems. Great. Who wrote creatively? Who wrote that in answer to the question? That would be you. Well, we can always rely on you to look at things outside of the square. Wars, countries. Okay, there's great subjects. Excuse me, about to cough. Okay, great. So we're going to write some poetry today. We're going to write some poetry collectively. And before I do that, I'd like to just get up on my soapbox about poetry. I write poetry. I don't have very much of it published. I may share some with you, but one of the things that I've discovered about poetry is that poetry is not about how many similes, metaphors, puns, onomatopoeias, or techniques are in a poem. That's not what makes a poem. What makes a poem is there is some deep experience, feeling, moment. I love the word moment. A moment that moves you to express and share that moment with others. I think poems are like snapshots, really. And they're intimate and treasured. So the best way really is to know, how do you express that deeply and meaningfully? The techniques come. And we will look at the techniques and we will analyse techniques, but we're not going to spend an awful lot of time colour-coding poems. So let's start us off. We're going to, oops, wrong one, I went to the wrong one. We're going here. How to eat a poem. Let me get rid of that. We're going to learn how to eat a poem. Ashley, I wonder if I could ask you to lower your lid for me. Great. Now, the core of this lesson is I want to show you how poems work. There's a strange magic to poems and to poetry as a whole, and I'd be really keen to see if you can... this is an experiment. I'm going to see if it works. I'm using Prezi in a different way than I've used it before. Okay, How to Eat a Poem is the name of a poem, which I will share with you. But we're going to do this backwards. I'm not going to share the poem first. I'm going to share the poem at the end. But you're totally lost now. Okay. Let's start here. How do you eat a piece of fruit? How do you eat a piece of fruit? Yep.
You bite it and you swallow it. You digest it as fruit.
You bite, chew and swallow. Okay, so we bite, chew and swallow.
And then digest.
And then we have to digest. We have to peel it. Yeah. hmm What was that?
Like, get the seeds out.
We have to de-seed it. Yeah, we might have to decore it. Yeah.
Cut it up.
Cut it up. We might need to wash it. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about the experience of eating a fruit. Not so much the process. I'm going to move all these over here. Let's talk about imagining, just actually imagining in your hands right now. Ooh, that made it very big. Let's imagine you've got a piece of fruit in your hands. And if I was more organised, you'd have a piece of fruit in your hands right now. When you eat a piece of fruit, what do? You savour it. Some people savour fruit. What else? You wash it round your mouth.
Enjoy the taste. I eat my apple.
Oh, okay, there's a few more coming here. I'm not catching them. I want to catch these amazing thoughts. What else? What else do you do?
Enjoy the taste.
Enjoy the taste. No, not always. Yep.
You don't want to spit it out.
So what do you do in that case, Elizabeth? If you don't
Kind of like, and then you drink
swallow as fast as you can. Okay. What else we got?
swallow.
Bill?
You push it from one cheek to the other. So each cheek gets even. I do. Otherwise you get jealous. And then a few.
Okay. Now you're personifying your cheeks. So you're using a poetic technique. Awesome. But you're personifying your cheeks. Oh, this cheek might be feeling a bit lonely and left out. I love it. Anything else? Yeah, Michelle?
Swallow the good stuff first.
Swallow the good stuff first.
Like juice it.
Say the best one.
Yeah, or
Firsty. Okay.
I feel like
I do too now. So this is the experience of eating a piece of fruit. Now, okay, let's put the idea of the fruit aside, out of our head for a minute, okay? We're going over here. How do you read a poem?
line by line.
Line by line.
that's like a song.
It's sort of like.
But line by line, word for word. I think we're getting a bit into letter for letter.
No, you don't.
You sort of figure out the rhyming pattern in the first.
Oh, hang on, you're all coming at once, and it's good in a way. So what was that?
You figure out the rhyming pattern like in the first stanza of the poem, and then you can sort of follow it through.
Figure out the pattern. That's really interesting. You figure out the pattern, yeah. How do you do that? How do you figure it out?
You read it a few different ways, like in your head, and you read it through like really carefully. You read it a couple of different times.
Does everybody do that? Do you do that, Vivian, when you're reading a poem? Do you read it a few times till you get the sense of it? Okay. Anything else? Anna, what else? You think of the meaning of it. Okay, I'm going to do this. Because you have to think when you read a poem. They're often mysteries. And some of the poems I'll give you will not be poems that you'll get first reading.